Hello, darlings. Game Informer put out another article with the specializations. From the larger article, they also had screenshots of skill trees, which are more like skill hexagons. I want the list of all the abilities and what they do. And from what I understand, you can also have sustained versions of some of those abilities and combos, which leads me to believe that maybe one slot it'll be like a 2-in-1 for a certain ability, if I understand correctly. From the 12-page Game Informer article, what I had found interesting was the ability to charge moves. So a charging system and a completely revamped healing system that allows you to use potions at your discretion. Maybe unlimited healing potions is what I understand from that. Combos are possibility. You can freeze combos. It says here the Veilguard's pause and play gameplay mechanic, similar to Inquisition's without the floating camera view, lets you bring things to a halt for a healthy but optional dose of strategy. Yes, thank you. Apparently there's a flashy combat wheel that highlights you and your companion's skills. You can choose abilities, queue them up so you can access abilities on the wheel, not just the quick slots. From what I understand from this, strategize and synergize with combos, all while targeting specific enemies. So basically, we lay out the foundation of the next attacks and then boom, watch it happen. In the latest article, they also say that each faction has a unique casual wear, which is worn in specific cutscenes when the character isn't donning armor, and 3 unique traits. Kind of like an Inquisition, we had our casual wear at Skyhold. Well, each faction will have its unique casual wear, which I like the idea of. Here says, for example, Lord of Fortune gain additional reputation with this particular faction. Increase damage versus mercenaries, perform takedowns on enemies with slightly less effort, which probably ties into why we need the companions to help, because they each have unique abilities and traits. Factions that want to help you but have realistic challenges and problems in front of them, so that narratively it makes sense why you help them in return for their help for when the time comes. Yeah. So I'm not sure what this means exactly. Gameplay wise, each of our classes have specializations. Okay, it makes sense. Each of them is tied to a faction. So there are 3 for each. There are 6 factions, so they intertwine each other. So let's try to décortiquer. How do you say that in English? So rogues, the duelist, daggers faster of the 3, with the 2 blades for rapid strikes. I'm guessing duelists are linked to crows, or maybe lords of fortune. Saboteur uses tricks and traps. That's probably lords of fortune. Veil ranger, that'll be the veil jumpers. Early range, sniping enemies from afar with a bow. That's the factions I associate these with. Mage can utilize necromancy, okay, with the Death Caller specialization. That's with the Morn Watch. Evokers, ooh, how evoking. Wield fire, ice, and lightning. So that would be the Shadow Dragons, because Nev is an ice mage. And the Spellblade uses magic-infused melee attacks. I could see this, and even crows, veil jumpers, maybe even Lords of Fortune. Maybe the Wardens? The warrior can be a reaper, which uses night blades to steal life and risk death to gain unnatural abilities. Maybe crows, maybe Grey Wardens. Slayer, a simple but strong 2-handed weapons expert. Lords of Fortunes, maybe crows, maybe Grey Wardens. Or the champion, a tactical defense fighter. I see that associated with Grey Wardens. For it to make sense, I'm guessing that, okay, so that's 9 specializations, 6 factions. I'm doing math. I mean, if it were 3 factions, it would be one per specialization. Because if it's 2 each, then that's 12. So that's too many. Which is another possibility. Like, for example, Reaper could be associated with 2 factions. I do not think this means that if you are said class and said faction that you must have this specialization or you cannot have another specialization. I believe is you must learn this specialization from said specialist of said faction. That's what I understand from it.
Don't ruin it.
Ruin it?
By pretending to something you're not.
Because beyond that, each faction has a companion as well as people we're calling agents, ancillarily, who exist as the faces of these factions. The first Warden, the first Talon, the head of the Morn Watch. Characters within that faction who are sympathetic, arguably, who you can see and become the face of the faction. So that even if there are moments where the faction as a whole may be on the outs with you, these characters are still with you. They've still got your back, beyond just the companions. Which is interesting, because it can be Viago and Taya, oh, we're with you, but the rest of the whole, the Antivan Crows are like, Nope, that's a possibility. And apparently there is a mirror of transformation that is back. Character's physical appearance can be changed at any time, which will be found in the lighthouse. Skill hexagons. From what I understand here is that we might be able to have more than one specialization. It's not explicitly explained in either of the articles, but is it that this opens up over here only if we unlock it and if we learn it? Or can we have all three specializations for our class? And there's like survival, so that's probably healing, abilities, weapons. It's similar to Inquisition. It has the Veilguard theme. And yeah, when we bring up the pause screen, the menus, so the map, the journal, so quest, side quest, character sheets for us, for companions, skill trees, skill hexagons. SWTOR has had elaborate skill trees. These are skill hexagons. And a library for lore information. Just like that, without the abilities, just looking at the hexagon. I'm a little bit lost because it's not what I'm used to, but I'm gonna get used to it, that's for sure. As you spec out the skill tree, which is 100% bespoke to each class, you'll work closer to unlocking a specialization, of which there are 3 for each class, complete with a unique ultimate ability. So that's why I believe that we can potentially be all 3. Work your way to a specialization, and then at the end, maybe it unlocks a specific ability, the rogue ones. So you've got controls, burst, sustain, okay, duelist, saboteur, veil ranger. So, oh, I like the hourglass. Yeah. Death Caller, Evoker, Spellblade. So control, sustain, burst. Control is up here. It's a bit mirrored for some of them. Library, I'm guessing that is the Codex entries. This is pretty cool. So this is like a close-up. Wall of Fire, duration, control. Here we see this looks like lightning abilities. So very interesting skill hexagons. It's reminiscent of Inquisition, so the circles are probably the activated abilities with a choice of you can have it do this as extra or this as extra. The squares are probably passive abilities, I'm guessing. Unless the circles are the passive abilities, but there are very little squares. That would make very little active abilities, because there's going to be active abilities, passive abilities, and there might be passive versions of abilities like dots, damage over time. That's what I want to know. I want to know what my AoEs are. I want to know what my dots are, because those are my favorite types. You stick the enemies in an AoE, you send them dots, more dots, lots of dots, and then you hit them DPS style. And the specialization beginnings, 4 active or sustained with special unlocks, and then 2 different versions like in Inquisition, either have it do this or have it do this. That is my assessment. While these specializations don't matter up front, you class it into them via the skill tree you progress through the game. It's nice to see the potential of each class before you choose it. I want the list of abilities, I want to know my dots, I want to know my AoEs, I want to know what the sustain abilities are, I want to know what everything does. Let me tell you, for Inquisition and for Dragon Age 2, I went on IGN and I had all the list. I planned out, I mapped out what my mage was going to do, what my mage was going to be, and for some of the companions as well. Damn, I spent a lot of time on that. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you all soon. Masaranas.